going. And welcome back to the Crypto Hulk Show. We are live here with Kalen Brown today. We're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff. We're going to start off the show with about the first 15 minutes. We'll do general question and answer after that. And then we'll get into some investing questions. You are going to love today's show. I'm guaranteeing you. The questions about what should we do with this? What should we do with that? We're going to get into some good stuff. Let me make sure Jim's here. Jim, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Happy to be here. How are you, Hulk?
I'm doing great today. I'm looking forward to today's show. This will be exciting. We got a great topics to go over. It's going to take about a few minutes for everybody to fully show up. So let's. How about if you do this? Give the audience a very quick rundown on what we're going to talk about today. Maybe just for about 1 to 2 minutes, something quick like that.
Yeah, sure. So we're doing it a little different today, which is exciting. So we'll spend a portion of this live stream doing our normal Q&A that we usually do. It's a great way for people who are Kellen Brown clients to ask any questions they may have about what we're doing. It is a great opportunity as well if you're not a client and you've got a whole bunch of questions around what we do, our brokerage model, for me to answer them. So we'll spend about the first 15 minutes or so answering any questions that the community has. And then after that, we're going to spend the rest of the show really talking about a whole range of topics when it comes to crypto investing. So some of the biggest mistakes that we find on our side, a lot of clients make. I can speak from personal experience as well. Some of the mistakes that I've learned since my time as an investor in crypto back in 2017. So we'll really go through some of the things that we've made mistakes on that hopefully you'll learn from. We're also, Hulk and I are also going to chat about, some of the factors and considerations that you need to be aware of when it comes to investing, especially in smaller market cap assets. I know that a lot of this community is always looking for the next big thing in crypto, which is great. There's a lot of opportunity for that. But there's also a lot of risks associated with investing in your smaller market cap assets and altcoins, as they're usually termed in this space. So we're going to go through what those risks and considerations are, so you're more sort of well versed when it comes to investing. We've also got a market update from me on our office in the US that I get a lot of questions about. So I'll give an update on that. And then we've also got just a whole bunch of trending assets that I'll discuss that are currently trending with Taylor Brown, but also some personal assets and cryptos that I'm quite interested in and think, um, have a good opportunity to perform really well. Obviously, everything that we discuss today will not be financial advice. This is really about assets that I'm interested in that have a clear use case in crypto moving forward. So we'll touch on a whole range of different things. This will be a highly educational live stream that hopefully you get a lot out of. But ultimately provide us feedback on this. If this is something that you're going to get a lot of value out of, we'd love to know, because we'll put more time and effort into the topics that we discuss. But yeah, that's really, I think, what the flow will be. Hulk, I'll let you jump in if you've got any sort of further thoughts on what we're going to discuss today.
Okay, so today's show, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a crypto advisor. Nobody on this show is. I'll just say that. Blanket immunity stuff. We're just going to talk about our personal opinions on crypto. Don't buy anything I tell you to buy. Don't sell anything I tell you to sell in case I do it by accident. This is the worst channel to get any kind of financial advice from because I'm not a financial advisor. What I'm going to do is we're going to talk about what we've discovered on our crypto journey and share it with you, and that's it. Whatever you decide to do with this channel, that's you. So now that I've given all disclaimers, let's get into this. We're going to open up the show 10 to 15 minutes. You get general question answer. What is Kalen Brown like? Basic stuff. I'm not talking about crypto right now. I'm not talking about necessarily investing right now. We'll do that later. We got 10 to 15 minutes. If you're brand new, you don't know why you should join Kalen Brown. Why is their custody better than a lot of places and stuff? I'm looking right now for general questions, and that's it. So let's start here. Um, Okay, a lot of people are okay. Somebody says need the app. Gunner says need the application.
Yeah, so I can provide a quick little update on that. We have actually opened up our app now just to Australian users, so it's gone live just within Australia. The reason for that is not because we don't like our US investors. We just know that most of our clients are based there. So we've done a targeted and scheduled rollout to roll it out initially to our Australian investors, get them to use the app for a bit of time, potentially find any bugs that may arise, and then ultimately we'll open up the app to our US users. So I can't give a set date on that, unfortunately, but given that it's now live in Australia and people within Australia are using it, it won't be too long until we open it up to our US clients. So be a little patient with us. I know it's been a long time, but it'll go live here quite shortly.
So what now, Jim? What I've done is there's this, if you type in laser eyes on the internet, there's this blonde-haired guy that looks about 25 years old. And whenever sometimes I do a show, it shows his laser eyes shooting out. So I'll make a little video and I'll be like, hey, is that you, Jim? So it, he does. He looks just like
I'm
you, I
aware of the
swear.
laser eyes meme.
Oh, it's hecka funny. He looks almost like you, but so that's where Stu Lavelle's like Jim Laser Eyes is in the house.
I didn't see that one. That's a good one.
I try to have fun on the channel, and it's funny, and it gets people interested and laughing. So it's all good fun. Okay, question: how do you transfer your crypto from an exchange like Coinbase or Uphold to Caleb and Brown?
Yeah, great question. So it's quite a seamless process to transfer assets over. So ultimately, once you create a Callum Brown account, you'll get distinct wallet addresses for all the tokens that we offer. So let's just say in your example, you hold XRP on Coinbase. You'll have an XRP wallet address with Callum Brown, and you'll seamlessly be able to transfer those assets from your Coinbase account. When you do that, it'll ask for the wallet address that you want to send them to. That's where you would provide your wallet address that is stored with Calvin Brown. Again, you can pull that from your portal, and then you'll be able to transfer those assets over at no cost. This is something that we recommend doing a test transaction on initially if you're not super confident in doing so. Or in that scenario, you can also get your broker to help assist you in moving those assets over. So it gives you the benefit of both. If you're super, technical and you know what you're doing, it's quite an easy process. Maybe if you're not, that's where I would recommend emailing your broker. They can help guide you through that process. But there's no cost in doing that, and there's no minimum. So if you hold $10 worth of XRP or you hold $10 million worth, you can transfer those assets over, and there's no cost in doing that.
Looks like Nate Hawk has a question. It says, does your account have its own keys that only the holder knows? Explain how the account's set up with keys and stuff and who has access to keys and who don't.
Yeah, so with Kelman Brown, we act as the custodian of your assets. You're still the beneficial owner of them. But as the custodian, what that means is we handle all the stress and security elements involved with the private keys of these wallets. So ultimately, how we do things is we use multi-party computation, which means that your private key is actually sharded. So it's split up three ways. And what that means is there's no one direct party that has access to that private key. So we have a portion of it. Firebox has a portion and a trusted third party has. So when you decide to execute a trade with Calvin Brown, all three parties involved in that transaction need to approve it alongside yourself, obviously, as the owner of those assets. And what that ultimately means is there's no one party involved that can direct or authorize a transaction. So we handle all of that side of things. So it's not like if you were to set up your own ledger wallet, you'd have your private key that you would be the owner and custodian of. You would need to safeguard that private key, not reveal it, keep it safe. You effectively become your own bank. In the scenario where you hold assets with Calvin Brown, we handle all of that security and custody element for you. So again, multi-party computation is what it's called. It's one of the best sort of security and best practice ways in which to transact assets from one party to another, or to make trades. But ultimately, again, our custody is free of charge, but it's not a requirement to use it. If you want to use your own Ledger wallet, we very much recommend you to do so, or any other hardware wallet. But again, if you're not super confident or you want to leverage our institutional grade cold storage solution, you're able to do so. But that's how the key management works. So if you're new to Caleb Brown, you don't have an account, it's not like you create an account, you get the private key for every wallet. We handle all of that side for our clients.
Now, what I've told people is this. Now, this is just how I look at stuff. This is what I like. I don't know what everybody likes, but the reason I prefer Caleb Brown is I like a custodial agent that's not staking, that's not doing anything with my crypto. I want it buried 300 feet below the ground. I don't want Caleb Brown touching my crypto or loaning it, lending it. I don't want to earn money. I don't want nothing right now. Do you do any kind of staking where you take people's cryptos and loan it to somebody else, and then if somebody doesn't pay it back, then I'm stuck with nothing? Like, how does that go with you guys?
Yeah, so we purely just hold assets in cold storage, and as Hulk mentioned, we don't touch them. They sit there in cold storage until you either instruct us to make a trade on your behalf or you make a trade yourself within the portal. I want to be really clear that look, there's a lot of solutions and people coming out now with offering yield on XRP, which inherently is not native yield. If someone's offering you yield on XRP, it means they're loaning out your XRP to get that asset value, most likely. But we don't do anything like loaning and staking. We are looking into potentially offering staking, but if we were to do so in the future, it would be native staking. So it'd be things that you can do on a proof of stake blockchain, not like XRP, which is not proof of stake. So I want people on this call, especially, to be incredibly conscious when it comes to using your assets that you own to earn a yield elsewhere. What that will often mean is that you're exposing yourself to either counterparty risk or some sort of smart contract risk. And that means that, yes, you may earn a yield of, I don't know, let's say 4%, 5%, but is that really worth the risk of that entire asset pool? So if you're holding, I don't know, 100K of XRP, is that worth the risk of potentially losing that underlying asset? That's really a question that you have to balance up yourself. But I would very, very much recommend to do your research when it comes to using those assets to earn yields elsewhere. So we don't do any of that. I know it's boring and a lot of people want us to, but ultimately, look, custody and consumer protection is the number one thing that we focus on and have as a top priority. So let's just say down the line that maybe we do offer staking. It would never come at the expense of our cold storage solution. And that's currently, our number one priority for clients.
Jim, are we at a point now where I already know the answer. I'm just asking this question for a brand new person. Are we at a point now where everything's regulated, everything's safe, there's no more hacks and all this stuff, or are we still at the beginning stage of crypto where it's very risky?
Still very risky, right? There's tons of bad actors out there. Even with regulation, there's only so much regulation that can protect consumers from bad actors, nefarious smart contracts, bad links out there that you click on. And that's really what we're getting back to when we talk about custody. Look, self-custody is great. We encourage it as a business, but you need to be incredibly confident in what you're doing. You essentially become your own bank in that scenario. So if you were to become hacked, or let's just say not even your crypto wallet, but your email address or your phone number gets hacked, all of a sudden they may have access to your emails. You may have mistakenly put your private key in an email somewhere. All of a sudden they can get access through your email. So there's a whole range of ways that you can potentially become compromised. So all we say for our clients is, look, just have those security measures and protocols in place. We're here to assist and custody on your behalf if you're not confident in doing so yourself. But without a doubt, look, even with more regulation becomes more right for crime, in my opinion, because we're going to have more people come into this space. We're going to have larger institutions, which means there's going to be more money flowing in. And when there becomes more money flowing in, that's when more bad actors, that's when more hackers enter into this space. So yes, regulation has come in and that's great for a whole range of reasons, but it certainly doesn't rule out a lot of the risks associated with custodying crypto and investing in this asset class.
Somebody asks here, what is a faster way to load your account rather than going through like a Wells Fargo and fighting like I had to do for 2 weeks to get my money to go where I wanted it to go? Wells Fargo kept messing with me. We kept going round and round, and then I had to threaten them, not with bodily harm, but threaten them that I'm going to have to notify the Attorney General of the United States or the bank OCC. Then all of a sudden, my transaction. What I personally feel the fastest way is to go to like a Uphold, buy something like a USDC and send it right to your Caleb Brown wallet. What do you think's the fastest way to get your account funded at Caleb and Brown besides using a bank and waiting 1, 2, 3, 7 days, 10 days? What do you think might be another option for people?
I would say that option's probably the best one. So if you were able to on ramp, using a debit card or a credit card on another platform, you could do it that way. What I would say on the bank wire transfers is that, look, yes, some of our clients do have issues with their banks because banks are inherently anti crypto. So a lot of the time, if they see money coming out and it's going to a crypto platform, often at times they'll assume just straight away it's a scam. So we often tell our clients, don't, if you can, don't tell your bank where you're actually transferring those assets to. It usually makes that process more seamless. Although the other thing I would say is that once you've done a deposit once and it's gone through successfully, usually you have no issues from then onwards. I know that Hulk's an exception in that manner where he did a successful deposit once and then the bank was holding up future deposits. But I often find we've found as a business that once clients have been able to successfully deposit USD through a bank wire transfer once with us, it usually gets processed quite quickly. So I don't want to say or imply that it's not a quick and seamless process because for most clients it actually is. But certainly we do have clients that have issues moving assets from a bank account because they're inherently anti-crypto. So in that scenario, if that's you, or you have significant bank wire transfers, which are a thing sometimes, I think that's your other best bet is you can use another platform to easily buy and sell USD and hold it with them, or USDC, as Hulk mentioned. So using your US dollars to buy a stablecoin, and then you can transfer easily those assets over to Caleb Brown. So they're probably the two best ways. But again, if you're ever having issues with a bank wire transfer, that is where you have your broker reach out to them, jump on the phone. They'll help sort it out for you because we have these issues arise all the time. So we know how to best solve them.
Okay, now we're done with the question and answer period. Jim, what is first on our agenda to discuss?
Yeah, so I mean, really the first thing we wanted to chat about is around the smaller market cap assets. So these are assets that I know the community is quite interested in. And there are a lot of positives with investing in them, which we'll touch on. But there are also some risks or things to be conscious of when you invest in smaller market capitalization assets, which we're going to touch on. So I'm not sure if you want to start us off, Hulk, and talk through sort of your experience or any positives on your end.
Yeah.
And then I can chime in.
Okay, so all I wanted to say to start this off with is this. Sometimes we'll talk about chain link, sometimes we'll talk about Hedera, small, tiny cryptos, big cryptos, whatever. Okay, the small cryptos, the ones that are like 0.003 or something like that, or cryptos that have a small market cap, meaning they only have $9 million in the market cap or 30 million or maybe like 40, 50 million. Those are what I call small market cap cryptos. Now they're good and they're bad. The good is they can go up dramatically fast in price. You can make 100, 150% or something sometimes, but guess what? Within 1 minute later, they can be down at zero. So that's how the stuff works. Some of you guys think, oh, it's just only going up. You shouldn't even be investing. You're somebody that should not even have access to money and a credit card and investing, okay? What I'm trying to show you, and Jim's going to talk about, is these tiny little cryptos. It's great sometimes, but it's also horrible at other times. So, me personally, when I get into a crypto, I have to watch like a show like this. I'll break down the evidence that I find with the crypto. And guess what? In the end, I have to make my own decision whether I want to buy it or not. Okay. So it can be good and it can be bad. I'm going to let Jim take over.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you're looking at specific assets to invest in is yes, the market cap is important because it will detail out the actual size of the asset. But the other really important thing is how much liquidity is there in the market to actually trade it. So if you're someone that is looking to get in with size, so let's just say, I don't know, you're wanting to put in 50K in an asset that has a smaller market cap, there's not a lot of liquidity in the market, you may be able to buy it, but when you buy it, you'll incur significant slippage on it. So that means that the price that you're buying at will actually become worse and worse as you buy more because there's less liquidity in the market for the market to be able to source it for you. And that's not particular to Calvin Brown. So usually if we list something, it's because we can source liquidity for it. So you don't incur the slippage. And in fact, we don't charge slippage. But I'm talking about if you're using Uniswap or you're using one of these other platforms to invest in an asset, having a good understanding of the liquidity within the market for it is really important. Because if you do buy that large asset, great, it may go up in price over time and all of a sudden you're looking at a really nice return. But when it comes time to sell, that's when you're going to have a lot of issues because there's not enough liquidity in the market or there's not enough buy pressure to actually buy that selling amount that you are trying to sell into the market. And that's where ultimately, again, you'll incur slippage. So the price that you're trying to sell at will actually move the market negatively. So if I tried to sell 50K of an asset that there's not a lot of liquidity in the market for it, all of a sudden, by the time I've sold that $50,000 of worth of it, I'm getting far less of a return because I've actually moved the market negatively. So high volatility is great. It can also be a really big negative. So I would very much recommend for any asset that you're looking at investing in to look at one, the market capitalization, the fully diluted value. So this is something that we haven't touched on in here before, but ultimately a crypto will have a market capitalization based on the amount of supply that's currently in circulation. That's not the total circulation that will be, the final amount of circulation. So, let's just say, let's use XRP as an example. XRP supply is only 60% available to the public right now. There's still a whole range of token unlocks to happen, which means there's 40% or give or take of the supply of XRP that's still needs to come into the market, which creates a supply side shock, which usually will reduce the price over time. So it's really important to be aware of those percentages, being aware of the liquidity in the market. And the platform that I use, that most of our brokers use, is called CoinGecko. I'm going to link it in the chat right now. This will have any asset really that you're probably interested in. And when you go through CoinGecko, you can actually look at the liquidity, you can look at the market cap, you can see the general tokenomics of the asset. So I would highly recommend you doing your research and having a look at the asset on CoinGecko before you decide to make an investment. Again, this is not financial advice, but this is some of the due diligence that we do as a business when we review assets. But ultimately, there's some of the things that you need to take into consideration. The other thing with these smaller assets is that there's a greater vulnerability to market manipulation. There's usually less limited information. It's not always entirely clear who the team is behind the asset or what the actual use case is. A lot of the time, there's not as much transparent communication as well. So again, there's a lot of benefits in this, and that Hulk said that you could get in early in an asset that is a smaller market cap that does really well and get to product market fit. But ultimately, there are a lot of risks associated with it as well. So again, things to take into consideration when you invest. But I would highly recommend going on CoinGecko, searching up some of the assets that you're interested in, and seeing some of the information that they provide.
Okay, what's our next topic?
Cool. So the next topic was a quick update on our US office. So I know that I was recently within the US and this topic came up quite a lot. So I wanted to confirm on this call that, the rumors are true in that, yes, we are opening up a US office. It'll be based within Fort Lauderdale, so within Florida. Some of our key personnel in our Australian office are currently moving to the US to set up our office there. But essentially, we'll have an office presence within Florida. So if you're someone on the call that's based in Florida, this is where then you can start to reach out to your broker, who will redirect you to our lead broker that will be over there. Again, I don't have the final details on how it will work in terms of opening up a time to come into the office and speak to one of our brokers. That will probably become more apparent here in the next couple of months. But ultimately, if you do want to come in and speak to your broker, you'll have the option to do that now face to face, which is really exciting. So our main focus is really, if you're a US client and investor with us, that we want to prioritize more of our efforts and have more of our resources in our largest market, which is the US. So that's the reason for this decision. Ultimately, we're starting on the East Coast within Florida. But given that we're pretty confident things will go well there, that we'll actually eventually look to open up a few more office presences. Again, can't confirm where exactly, but ideally somewhere probably in the West Coast, and most likely somewhere maybe in the middle of America as well. Again, those two offers, that's a bit more up in the air. But I wanted to provide a quick update that we are in the final stages of opening up our office within Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, next topic.
Next topic. So I just wanted to quickly touch on, and again, this is something that is publicly available for anyone that has a Caleb Brown account. We wanted to quickly touch on the three top trending tokens currently within Caleb Brown, and that's defined by what people are actually searching for on their Caleb Brown account. You can find this yourself if you go into your Caleb Brown account. You'll see a section in your left navigation bar that is essentially called markets. And within markets, there'll be a little bubble up the top that will show you the trending assets. But I wanted to just quickly reveal what those are. So XRP, which is no surprise, especially given the recent news in the last couple of days around the judge ruling. People are interested in looking at potentially maybe using it as a buying opportunity or just looking at the price movements over the last 6 months with XRP. So that's one of the main ones. And then we've got the Zebex token, so ZBCN, and Velo as well. So they're our sort of top three trending that people in Caleb Brown are looking at right now. Hulk, I know you spoke about Zebex and Velo quite recently. Did you want to provide a quick little update on those assets?
Yeah, just what we went over Zebex. Somebody wanted to know about Zebex, so I did a little deep dive on it. And I mean, I keep a list right here. Over the past couple weeks, I have a list of probably, you're not gonna believe it, 21 cryptos that I want. Now, I can't buy them all, obviously. It's gonna be really difficult for me to shrink my list down. Zebek I already own, um, but it's like what we'll do on Crypto Hulk Show. At least like that's been working pretty good the past couple weeks now, or whatever. Is I go over a crypto, we look it all over, we discuss it. I try to find out what banks are involved. Is there a government involved? Is there a national university involved? Do we got startup accelerators involved in this? Who are the team? Who invented it? Where did they go to school? What did they do? So what I try to do is paint a really good picture on what I see on the crypto, but I don't have access to stuff that Caleb Brown has because they could look at other stuff. I have no idea. But yeah, we went over Velo, Zebek a couple weeks back. And they really like to hear about it. And so that's kind of what we did. And what three cryptos, I think I might have missed it. What three cryptos is it showing up on the Caleb Brown account that people are inquiring about the most or looking into?
So those three, so XRP, Zebex, and Velo. I
Okay.
think it's over a period of a few days or over a week. It's what clients are looking at currently. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're buying. I
Okay.
can certainly confirm that Zebex was quite popular within the XRP community. So we had a lot of buyer demand for that, and it actually performed quite well. I know it's taken a bit of a pullback here as most altcoins have, since this Iran-Israel news has come out. But ultimately, those three are the main ones that people are looking through, which are quite interesting. People are probably seeing XRP as a bit of a buy opportunity right now, just based on I think it's down 4 or 5% today. But we also just have a very heavy XRP focused client base. We have a lot of clients that are interested in it. So there's certainly three that are interesting and are currently trending. But again, this is something that as a client of ours, you can actually check yourself within your portal. So I'd recommend if you're trying to find narratives and trends, at least within the Calum Brown space, that you check those out. But again, I'd also be looking at, as I mentioned before, and I promise I'm not sponsored by CoinGecko, but CoinGecko have a lot of interesting statistics and things that you can look at, especially around, the 24-hour and 7-hour, 24-hour and 7-day price appreciation and depreciation of assets. You can actually toggle by that and see that, okay, over the last 7 days, what assets are performing the best? And maybe they're assets that you can do some more research into and see whether they're worth investing in. So yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like a good idea, you guys. What we could probably do is let's say, okay, usually on the first or the second of every month, I get my crypto allowance, as I call it. And what I'm going to do is I got 21 different cryptos. Like, here's my list. So I got 21. What I'm probably going to do is narrow it down to like five, to maybe
Yep.
10, because Kalen Brown doesn't carry everything. So what I got to do is basically find out of my 10, I'll start with five. And if they only carry one or two, then I got to increase my thing. But what I'm going to do is what Jim suggested. I'm going to go to CoinGecko. I'm going to find out of all these cryptos, which ones are doing the worst. And that's probably what I'm going to do to buy. Now, that's just me. Don't copy what I'm doing. But what I want to do is I'm not trying to buy, like, this is common sense. I'm not trying to buy something when it's at an all-time high or when it's like really, really green. I want to buy this is just me. I want to buy a really good crypto with all the aspects that I said before. Like, does it have an accelerator? Is a bank working with it and all these things? Then for me, I want to find that same crypto that I thought was awesome, and I want to see it at its lowest point, and then I want to go in. So I'll probably use CoinGecko to see in the past week which of the 10 cryptos that I pick are hammered the most, and then does Caleb Brown carry it? And then that's when me personally, once I do research, and you guys know how I am, if I love a crypto, it's at its lowest point that I can get, and Caleb Brown carries it, for me, that's probably going to be the one I pick. So I'm going to utilize CoinGecko for that coming up on July 1st or 2nd. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good, and also probably something that we can do in another show. Maybe we can go through CoinGecko, and I can actually show people on the call sort of what we look for, what are the same main things to look out for. So, if it's something that people are interested in, they're enjoying this topic of conversation, we can probably at some point do another video where we actually go over sort of the main, uh, you know, tokenomics, the main things to look out for on a specific asset. Um, but yeah, let's move on. The next topic I had was so we've spoken about trending assets within Caleb and Brown. I wanted to touch on a few that I find to be quite interesting. Now, again, I'm going to preface everything I say is not financial advice, and I'm certainly not saying that if you invest in these assets, they're going to get you a certain return or do well. But I know that these are assets that I'm very interested in because they have a clear use case. They actually have a business model as well, so they're generating really strong revenues. So that's something that I am always interested in when I look at potentially investing in assets is are they actually is the protocol or the platform or whatever the token is underlying it, is it actually earning revenues? So these two in particular are earning a lot of revenue. And I've found that at least for one of them that has gone through a bear cycle and a bull cycle, that it's quite bear market resistant just by the nature of the asset class. So the first one that I'll touch on is called Aave. So I'll just type the ticker in the chat here. This is one of the best DeFi protocols, or arguably the best in the crypto space. So Aave, if you go on their protocol, it allows you to stake your assets natively. Again, not some of the lending elements and the nefarious stuff that we'll kind of talk about before. Aave allows you to stake your assets, whether it's USDC, whether it's ETH. Essentially, it will do it in a native way and allow you to earn yield on your assets. Aave's been around probably since I would say 2020, 2019, maybe even earlier under a different name. It's been through many bear cycles of bull markets now. It's generating about 85 million in revenue per year. So it's got a clear business case and business model behind it. And it has about 24 billion in total value locked on the platform. So one of the biggest things that is really important, or a very important metric to look out for, especially when it comes to a DeFi protocol, is what's the amount of assets that are actually locked in on their platform or chain? How many people are staking on the platform? And 24 billion is a huge amount to have in TVL, which is total value locked. So Aave is one that I'm very interested in. They've got a really strong team. As I mentioned, they've been around for a really long time. So that's one that I have quite a high conviction in and have a belief that that will continue to do really well. DeFi is one of the clear use cases in crypto that we know is not going anywhere. So I am a big fan of Aave and the team and what they're building there. So that's the first one, and that is, you can buy that and sell that through Calvin Brown. So we offer Aave. I'm not sure if you've heard of Aave Hulk or you had any opinions on that before I jump into the next one.
I've seen it. I am going to deep dive it myself. And now that I know you guys got it, if I deep dive it and it looks cool, it might even be on my list. So, but go ahead. Yeah, I'm just taking notes as you're talking.
Yeah, and just with the price action on Aave, so again, I'm not by any means saying that it's going to perform well into the future. But if you look at the previous all-time high from last year, I think it was around 500, 550. I think it's currently trading at, let me just confirm what it's trading at right now. But ultimately, it's got legs to run because it's nowhere near its all-time high. It's at 250 right now. So it still has, in my opinion, legs to run, considering that it's nowhere near its all-time high from the last bull market. So again, that's always something that I personally, again, non-investment advice, and I wouldn't necessarily, I'm the best investor anyway, but I always look at, okay, what's its previous all-time high in a bull market? And if you're a big believer that we'll eventually have another really strong bull market, does it have the ability to surpass that? And in my opinion, it does. But again, that's something to keep into consideration. The other asset that's quite interesting that I know everyone in our office is a big fan of in terms of how they did their TGE, but also the actual protocol itself is Hype. Excuse me. I know Hype's been mentioned a few times in this chat. Essentially, it's a unique perpetual decentralized exchange. It allows you to trade on futures of assets, short and long the market, but do so in a decentralized manner. So in the past, if you wanted to short a particular asset or long a particular asset, you could really only do so at size on Binance or these other centralized exchanges. The Hype, which is based on the Hyperliquid Foundation, is one of the first of its kind that allows you to do so in a decentralized manner. So you aren't required to KYC. You aren't required to provide your ID. This business is very, very profitable for them right now. So I think they're generating around 550 million in annualized revenue. And one of the more interesting things that they're actually doing as part of their foundation is 97% of the fees that they're generating, they're actually going back into buying more Hype. So they've got a really strong token buyback policy, which is propping up the price. We offer it only in terms of depositing it with us and selling through us. It's actually really impossible. It's actually very difficult or almost impossible to source Hype for clients. So if you wanted to invest in it, you would need to do so through the Hyperliquid Foundation. Again, give me one moment. I would go on their Twitter, and then from their Twitter, we'll have the official link for Hyperliquid. How you would actually purchase it is you move USDC into the wallet there, and then you'll actually be able to invest in Hype that way. Let me just get the link, and I'll put it in the chat. So Hyperliquid again is the protocol behind Hype. So certainly another one to at least do some research into because I don't think this will be going away anytime soon. You want to look for assets and protocols that are bear resistant, and certainly people are going to want to continue to speculate on the market, whether we're in a bear market or a bull market. So again, another really interesting asset that I'm looking at quite eagerly. So another to do a bit of research into.
Okay, hold up. Yeah, we went over Hype the other day because I'm on it pretty good. I mean, somebody asked me, Crypto Hall, can you look up Hype? I think I spoke on it for about 30 minutes straight and showed all the connections. This thing goes deep, deep, deep. That's on my list. Like, that's like my top five. One of them that I'm more than likely going to buy coming up next month. But I got to find, that's what I'm saying. If I deep dive something real good and then I'm like, oh my God, two thumbs up, and then I know that Caleb Brown's got it, for me, that's the one I'm going to get. But really quickly, Maria Sangria had a question. How is Caleb Brown preparing clients for tokenization and future liquidity events as adoption of real world asset grows?
So in terms of how we're allowing clients to invest in that space, or let me get the question up. How's
How
come
is
about preparing clients for tokenization and future liquidity events as adoption of real world assets grows? So In terms of the actual, so there's a bit in that question. The first is around future liquidity events. So Maria, as a client of CMB, we always pull through best in-house liquidity. So we source our liquidity from a whole range of different liquidity providers, OTC desks, DEX, to ensure that in any future liquidity event, you can always either enter the market or you can exit the market at the best price possible. So we're always confident, especially given we've been through a number of bull markets and bear markets now, that we have sufficient liquidity to always allow you to be able to exit and enter the market when you please. In terms of future tokenization, so in terms of real world assets, at this stage, we're purely a spot platform. So we just allow clients to purchase crypto. Certainly, there are a whole bunch of cryptos that are focused on RWAs and the real world asset sector. At this stage, we aren't currently offering any sort of tokenization of real world assets. It's something that I think is still in its infancy, but certainly wouldn't rule it out as an offering that we'll provide in the future. We're always looking at different product suites and offerings. We don't feel like it's at a point yet where it's sufficient enough for us to offer it. And to be honest, we don't have tons of demand for it right now. But ultimately, I'm a big believer in the tokenization of real world assets, especially things like property. But it's still in its infancy in our belief. So we will be looking into that sector. But at this stage, the only real exposure you could get through us is if you invest in an RWA asset that's a crypto-based token.
Next highlighted one was Linda McKinney had a question in the orange yellow thing. Crypto transferred can it be in any amount, or does it have to be $500+?
Crypto transfers can be any amount. So clients can move over any amount, whether it's $10, whether it's $1 million. There's no limits or maximums on transfer, and there's no fees for that as well. So if you're moving assets from a hardware wallet, from Coinbase, from Uphold, wherever, you can move over as little or as much as you'd like.
All right. Hello, Maria. All right. Next, go ahead.
So I think the last topic we really had, unless there's more questions to discuss, is some of the mistakes that people buy when they are purchasing crypto, or some of the things that get them in trouble. I know that I can speak from personal experience here. Unfortunately, you're always learning something in this space. But Hulk, did you maybe want to? I'm sure you've got a couple that maybe you want to touch on, and then I can add a few of mine as well.
All right. So I'm just going to speak on like myself and what I've noticed, because I'm new to trading. When I first got into crypto in 2000, it was like March of 2020. I got in and I was out of buying crypto May of 2020. So that was about 5 years ago. About 6 months ago, I learned of Caleb and Brown, roughly somewhere in that time frame, 6, 7 months or whatever. So I started buying crypto again, but I wasn't trading it. And trading for me is maybe taking one crypto I got, transferring into something, buying that. So what I found out is that's a little tricky. Next, I found out is that some crypto exchanges don't do their due diligence. So they may have a title of a crypto that's not even the right crypto you want. It's fake. Or they might have 5 different forms of one crypto, but only one of them's real. The reason I like Caleb Brown is because they're upfront. There's no scammy, spammy stuff. They have people that do their best to eliminate dumb crypto or fake crypto on their platform. So when you look at Caleb Brown, there's no games being played. What you see is what you get. It's not like a name that's similar to a crypto or whatever. No. So one thing I learned was that these other platforms, which I won't mention names, that it says it has a certain crypto. It's not it. It's fake. That's one of the mistakes that I've seen. But go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I would say that it helps exactly right in the sense that we are always doing our due diligence on the assets that we list as a business. Ultimately, anything that has full functionality in terms of our support through our portal, if we offer it to you, it means that we can safely custody it. It means that we think there's sufficient liquidity in order to execute trades for our clients. So yeah, please feel rest assured that if we offer it for clients, it means that we've done our due diligence and we're constantly reviewing assets in terms of its liquidity, in terms of its use case, um, whether there's actual sufficient demand from our clients to even offer it. But I would much recommend, as we've stressed throughout this call, that use platforms like CoinGecko to do your research, reach out to your broker. I think that's one of the biggest things that probably we need to touch on more is that your broker is here to help you. So if you've got an asset that you're interested in, I am confident that our brokers and our team have done our research on it. So feel free to get their guidance on that asset themselves. That's what your broker's there for. They're here to help you make money, essentially. They want to make sure that you're well informed with your portfolio. So always feel free to reach out to your broker if you're not 100% sure on an asset that you're looking to invest in. One of the biggest mistakes and things that I've made throughout my time in this space, and it's been a while now since 2017, is that, and something I try and stress with my friends, family, and even a lot of our brokers with our clients is don't be married to your bags. So you may have a large holding of, let's just say it's Ethereum. Um, don't feel like you need to hold those assets because you had a prior belief or conviction in that asset. If it's not performing well, or if it is performing well, there's no there's no imperative that it may perform well in the future. So it's always really important to continue reevaluating your thesis on an asset, but also your holdings on it. It's not a binary event. It's something that I always get stuck in. I either have to sell out of 100% of a position or I hold it all the way down. It's not a binary scenario. You can sell 50%, you could sell 25%. It's something that we always stress around profit taking. So if you're currently holding a crypto asset and it's doing really well and you're up, I don't know, let's just say 20%, there's nothing wrong with you taking a little profit out or maybe taking your initial out and then riding that profit. There's always different ways to sell out of a position, enter back into a position that I've really struggled with. I've personally been someone that has held something either 100% or sold it all. But have an understanding that there are other ways to take profits and that you shouldn't be married to your bags. You should constantly be reevaluating your thesis. And I can speak to personal experience. I first got involved in crypto because I loved Ethereum. I had a big belief in it. I loved what Vitalik and the team were building. But naturally, Ethereum's underperformed now for what, 3 or 4 years, right? So I'm constantly reevaluating my position on Ethereum, on what they're building, on the weaknesses that have now become quite clear. And I think that's something that yourself as an investor, especially if you're looking to invest in a long period of time, that you're constantly doing with your own portfolio.
We have a question from somebody that paid. When is Caleb Brown, the application, going to come out? You kind of answered that. Just answer it again if you could, really quick, in like 1 minute or less.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So the app is currently live now within Australia. As I mentioned, it's not because we don't like our US clients. We just want it to be live and open for a smaller market first, where our Aussie clients can test it out, see if there's any bugs, have it essentially have a lot of traffic come through, and then we'll ultimately open it up to our US base. I can't give a date on when that will be, but we certainly know that this is the number one priority for a lot of our clients. So it's live right now. So if you're Australian, you can download it right now. You can go to the Apple App Store and download it and log into your account and do everything that you can do in your portal in the app. But ultimately, as I'm sure most people on this call are American, please be a little bit more patient. It will go live soon, and it'll be available for initially Apple users, so iPhone.
Okay, we're gonna have right now. I've got 5:48 p.m. Pacific time. We're gonna give 10 more minutes. Now I'm gonna open it up to any kind of question. So we're gonna have open question time right now. Let's go for it.
As the questions are coming through, can I address just quickly something that we're getting a lot of questions about recently that I'd like to address, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I just want to be really clear, and we've had a few comments come through and things said online around Callum Brown not being bankruptcy remote, or that as a client you're a creditor of Callum Brown. I want to be really clear on this, that is inherently not true. So how it works on our end is we hold assets, we're the custodian for clients. So if you deposit or if you hold crypto with Callum Brown, we act as the custodian of those assets on your behalf. But we hold those assets on trust. And what that means is we hold them on trust as the custodian for you, but you're still the beneficial owner of those assets. So let's just say something was to happen to Caleb Brown and tomorrow we went bankrupt. The client assets that we custody on behalf of you, they do not form a part of our company balance sheet. They're not assets that liquidators and administrators can come after. Those assets are separate from Caleb Brown's assets. So I want to be really clear on that. If something was to happen to Caleb Brown, your assets are protected. We would return those assets to you as the beneficial owner of them, and they do not form part of the company's assets that would go under liquidation, essentially. I want to be really clear on that. We've had a lot of inaccuracies in terms of our operations, in terms of how that flow actually works. But I want to be clear that that's how it would work. You are the beneficial of your assets when you hold them with Caleb Brown.
Okay, yeah, I've said that to them. What I try to tell people is this: if you go to some random crypto exchange, let's say, you put your money in there in your crypto, you're what they call an account holder, HOLDER. Now, with Caleb Brown, you're the account owner, OWNER. What's the difference? Massive difference. Like just like Jim was saying, if a crypto exchange goes bankrupt, and your crypto in there, you're deemed a crypto holder, you're screwed. All your stuff's gone. At Caleb Brown, you are the owner, so they're not allowed to take your crypto to pay off their bills like FTX or whatever. They can dip into everybody's crypto and pay off all their bills. At Caleb Brown, does not happen. Your crypto is separate from what they're wheeling and dealing, okay? They bury it 300 feet below the ground. They don't touch it, okay? AJ Singh has a question. Is the minimum trade for 500 bucks? The answer is yes.
Yeah, so I think it's based on whether it's different for an LLC. It's exactly the same whether you're trading as an individual, an LLC, or through your trust. It's a 500 USD minimum.
Somebody's asking about IOTA.
Yeah, so I think IOTA is one that we're continually looking at. We don't offer full functionality on it currently. I think you may be able to sell it through us, but you can't buy it through us. I can double check with our team of traders and operations team, but I can almost guarantee the reason for that is there's not a lot of liquidity in the market for it. But let me have a look into IOTA again and get back to the team.
Okay, now's your time, you guys. We've got 7 minutes or 8 minutes. If you got a question, you've been trying to ask me about a crypto or something or whatever, now's the time. You got 7 minutes. um, no Caleb and Brown in Canada. Really quick, why?
Yeah, so I mean, it's got nothing to do with our Canadian clients. We love our Canadian clients. The reason for it is we've just had a lot of issues operating there from a banking rail perspective. We found that a lot of the banks there were quite anti-crypto, but to the standard that's even worse than what we experienced within Australia and the US. So it made us really difficult to offer our top tier personalized white glove service just because the banking rail is really difficult to operate in. So it's not something that is final. We hope to probably operate within the Canadian market again at some point. I can't say that for sure, and I don't know what the timeline would be on that. But ultimately, that's really the main reason why. It was really difficult for us to prioritize our top tier service there due to the banking rails.
Okay. Next question. Tell me. Let's see. One of the things I had about IOTA, now I don't know if I'm correct, aren't they going to like try to redo that whole thing? Like, isn't that kind of like Ethereum? They're talking about just like redoing the whole Ethereum and starting over again. Is IOTA kind of in that situation where they got a new CEO, I believe, and they're trying to redo the whole thing? That's kind of like scary, isn't it? Or am I confusing it with something else?
I'm not sure actually. I probably need to do some more research into IOTA and their future plans. I know that Ethereum has essentially built out, another aspect within their foundation to help support and promote Ethereum, essentially to create more of a marketing arm around it, which is honestly been part of its downfall is the lack of communication with what they're doing and what they're building. But I think the inherent team within the Ethereum Foundation at least is remaining the same. But I can't speak to IOTA. I'd need to do a bit more research into what they're doing.
Yeah, I read something. They got a new CEO and they're trying to redo something that's massive to make it IOTA better. And a lot of people are kind of like, well, we're going to kind of wait and see if you guys actually pull it off. I think it's something kind of like that. That's why I didn't really do a show on it because I kind of have an idea that's probably maybe at least half of the issue. But I don't know. Let me keep looking at more questions here. We've got 5 minutes. Does everybody get institutional grade custody for being your customer?
Yeah, so every client that holds assets with Cowan Brown, you'll essentially leverage our cold storage custody solution. It's developed by Fireblocks. It's institutional grade. Again, a lot of people seem to think that it's not an institutional grade. Literally, the largest banks and crypto institutions around the world use it. Not only do we use Fireblocks, but we have a whole bunch of, it's called taps, essentially a whole range of code that we've added on top of it to enhance our security procedures and protocols. But yeah, as a client, if you're holding crypto with us, you'll have a Fireblocks vaulted wallet address, and that will be held in cold storage on your behalf. So every client that works with us, gets to use our cold storage solution.
Okay. A couple of these questions are repeat questions. I'm not going to read them about transfer, wire transfer. And so we kind of went over that. Go back and watch the show. If you came in late to the show, I encourage you to go back because we answered these questions already. So I'm thinking, yeah, somebody says here IOTA had an upgrade and it went live in May. That's what I'm saying. They like redid a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of times people are going to just get back and kind of wait 3 months, 6 months or something and see what happens. So. Crypto. I think we'll wrap it up with that. Yeah, that'll be good enough. Go back if you just showed up, watch the show over because now we're getting repeat questions, and that's usually a sign that a lot of people, yeah, have left and new people come in. So we're gonna end it with that. We'll probably see you in a couple weeks. Is that correct or not correct?
Uh, Potentially, I'm actually going to be overseas pretty soon, taking some time off. So we'll confirm. But we usually do these every 2 weeks. I would very
Okay.
much recommend if you're someone that's just jumped in and you're asking a few questions to actually watch this one back. As we mentioned at the start, we went over some really interesting topics, some interesting assets. We talked about investment mistakes and things to be conscious of. We provide a lot of interesting research tools and platforms. So I would really recommend if you've just jumped in now to actually go over this video. It'd be really insightful for you. And if you enjoy it, we'll do another one in the future.
All right, that'll wrap it up. I'll see everybody in my next live stream. Okay, I think that's it. It says